The gravel crunched under my sneakers like bones snapping in the dead of night, and I froze at the edge of the playground, heart slamming against my ribs as if it knew what was coming before I did. "Elijah, you tell me yours, and I'll give you this," Alex whispered, his 8-year-old grin wide and conspiratorial under the rusted monkey bars, holding out a Capri Sun pouch like it was the key to the universe. In that split second, as the summer sun dipped low and painted his freckled cheeks gold, I spilled my deepest secret, the one about the boys in class who made my stomach flip in ways the girls never did. And just like that, with a sticky straw pierce and a shared slurp, I'd handed him the map to my soul. 20 years later, that juice box haunted me like a ghost in a bottle, because when Alex showed up on my doorstep in the pouring rain of a Seattle autumn, soaked to the bone and eyes wild with the same boyish plea, I realized the trade hadn't ended. It had only just begun to bleed me dry. I grew up in the shadow of the Cascades, in a nowhere town called Millwood, Washington, where the evergreens whispered secrets to the wind, and the high school football field was the closest thing to a cathedral we had. Millwood wasn't the kind of place that bred dreamers. It chewed them up and spat them out as loggers or baristas, their ambitions buried under layers of flannel and quiet resentment. My mom worked double shifts at the diner, flipping burgers for truckers who leered too long. And Dad, well, he was a ghost long before the cancer took him, drifting through our trailer in a haze of cheap whiskey and regrets. Me? I was the kid with the two big eyes and the sketchbook full of charcoal drawings of boys who looked suspiciously like the ones on the covers of my hidden romance novels, the ones I'd stuff under my mattress like contraband. Alex was the sun to my moon, the spark that lit up the gray. He lived 2 trailers down, in a home that smelled like fresh-baked apple pie instead of stale smoke, with parents who actually showed up to parent-teacher conferences. His dad was a park ranger, all broad shoulders and easy laughs, and his mom baked pies for the church bake sale that could make atheists confess their sins. Alex had that effortless charm, the kind that made teachers call him a joy and girls blush in the hallways. Golden hair that caught the light like wheat fields in July, green eyes that crinkled at the corners when he smiled, and a laugh that echoed like thunder rolling off the mountains. We were inseparable from the cradle. Well, from kindergarten. Anyway, building forts out of fallen branches, racing bikes down the dirt roads until our lungs burned, and trading secrets under the stars like they were baseball cards. That juice box moment on the playground? It wasn't just kid stuff. It was the crack in the dam. I'd been wrestling with it for months. This weird flutter in my chest whenever Tommy Hargrove swung on the swings, or when Alex tackled me in a game of tag, his body warm and solid against mine. The other boys talked about crushes on Sarah Jenkins' pigtails. I doodled mustaches on magazine models and felt my face heat up. So when Alex cornered me that afternoon, pouch in hand, his voice an urgent hiss, "Come on, Eli, fair's fair. I told you about stealing my sister's Barbie." I cracked. "It's boys," I mumbled, staring at my scuffed Converse. Like, I think about boys the way you're supposed to think about girls. The words hung there, heavy as the humidity, and I braced for the shove, the laugh, the end of everything. But Alex just pierced the foil with his straw, took a long pull of tropical punch, and handed it over without a blink. "Cool. Your turn to pick the next fort spot." And that was it. No judgment, no whispers to the other kids. He traded me silence for sweetness, and in that pouch, I tasted freedom for the first time, tart and fleeting, but real. We carried that pact through middle school awkwardness, where braces clashed and hormones hit like a freight train. Alex dated Jenny Caldwell for 2 weeks in 7th grade, a fumbling experiment involving bad kisses behind the bleachers that he confessed to me with a shrug. "It's weird, man. Like kissing my cousin." I nodded, heart twisting, because I'd watched from the shadows, sketching his profile in my notebook until the page tore. By high school, Millwood High's hallways were a minefield of jocks and cliques, and we navigated it like brothers. Him the quarterback with the arm of a god, me the artsy sidekick who lettered in track but dreamed in watercolors. I'd sneak into his room after games, the scent of turf and sweat clinging to his jersey, and we'd talk until dawn about escaping to Seattle, to the city lights where no one cared who you loved. But secrets have a way of fermenting, turning sweet into sour. Senior year, the pressure cooker cranked up. Alex's dad got passed over for a promotion, money tightened like a noose, and suddenly the apple pies came from boxes. Alex threw himself into football harder, scouts sniffing around like wolves, whispering scholarships to UW. I buried myself in applications to art schools, my portfolio bursting with portraits of him. His jaw set in determination during a huddle, his eyes soft in repose after a loss. One night, post-victory bonfire, the kegs flowing and the cheerleaders circling like sharks, Alex pulled me aside behind the old oak. Firelight danced on his face, casting shadows that made him look older, haunted. "Eli," he said, voice rough from shouting plays. "What if? What if it's not just girls for me either?" His words slurred a little, beer on his breath, but his eyes were clear, searching mine like he was handing back that juice box, pouch empty but promise full. My pulse thundered, the world narrowing to the heat of his hand on my arm. The way his thumb brushed my skin, accidental on purpose. I leaned in, breath catching, and a cheerleader's giggle shattered it. "Alex, baby, where'd you go?" Jenny, ex-Jenny, now Rebound, tugged him away, and he went, laughing it off, but not before squeezing my shoulder, a silent later. Later never came. Graduation hit like a slap, caps in the air and futures fracturing. Alex got the full ride to UW, football star in the making. I scraped into a community college in Tacoma, commuting on a rust bucket bus, my dreams deferred like bad checks. Letters turned to emails, emails to texts, then to nothing but holiday cards. Millwood faded in the rear view, but Alex lodged in my chest like a splinter, festering. Seattle swallowed me whole 5 years later. I'd clawed my way to a studio apartment in Capitol Hill, the queer heart of the city, waitressing at a dive bar by night, and painting murals for hipster cafes by day. The rainbow flags fluttered like promises kept, and I dipped my toe in. Hookups in back alleys that left me hollow. Dates at queer open mics where vulnerability was currency. But none of them stuck, because none of them had that laugh, that green-eyed gaze that saw through me like I was glass. Then, the rain came down in sheets one October evening, the kind that turns streets to rivers and souls to soup. I was elbow-deep in dishwater at the bar, the jukebox crooning some indie heartbreak anthem, when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. "Eli. It's me. Outside. Need to talk." Heart in my throat. I bolted, apron strings trailing like regrets. There he was, under the awning of my walk-up, drenched flannel clinging to shoulders broader than memory, hair plastered dark, eyes shadowed by exhaustion. 28 looked good on him, lines etched from hard-fought games and harder choices, but the play in his stance was pure 8-year-old, juice box extended. "Alex." I breathed, rain slicking my skin as I pulled him inside. The door clicked shut, sealing us in the dim glow of my thrift store lamp, the air thick with unspoken years. He collapsed onto my sagging couch, water pooling like tears. "I fucked up, Eli. Everything." His voice cracked, and just like that, the dam broke, not mine, but his. Words tumbled out, the NFL dreams derailed by a blown-knee sophomore year, the bar jobs in dive towns, the string of girlfriends that felt like costumes. They all knew something was off. Hell, I knew. But I couldn't. After that night by the oak, I panicked. Thought if I pushed it down, it'd go away. I sat across from him, knees not quite touching, the sketchbook from high school, dog-eared, him on every page, open on the coffee table like evidence. And now, my voice was steady, but inside, I was unraveling. "Now." He looked up, green eyes locking on mine, raw and stripped. "Now I drove 3 hours in this shit because I can't pretend anymore. That secret you traded me? It's mine too. Always was." The kiss happened like a storm breaking, fierce, desperate, his hands in my hair, my fingers tracing the scars on his knuckles from old fights. We tasted like rain and redemption, bodies remembering what minds had buried. That night, tangled in sheets that smelled like turpentine and takeout, he whispered my name like a prayer, and I let myself believe we'd rewritten the trade. Secrets for skin, silence for surrender. But Millwood's ghosts don't die easy. For 3 months, it was a fever dream in the best way. Alex sublet a room in my building, a shoebox overlooking the Puget Sound, where fairies cut wakes like silver knives. We'd wake to the foghorn's mournful call, his arms slung over my waist, breath warm on my neck. Mornings were lazy, coffee black as midnight, sketches of him sprawled naked on the fire escape, sunlight gilding his lashes. Afternoons, he'd sling shifts at a gym downtown, spotting weights for tech bros who eyed him like fresh meat, while I layered pigments on canvases, my work finally selling at local galleries. Portraits of lovers in the margins, unspoken and aching. Nights. God, the nights. Capitol Hill pulsed with possibility. Dim-lit bars where drag queens lip-synced to Gaga. Alleys alive with graffiti that bloomed like bruises. We'd dance until sweat slick, his body pressed to mine in crowds that didn't blink at two men stealing breaths. One evening, at a pop-up poetry slam in a converted warehouse, he read a piece he'd scribbled on a napkin, raw verses about juice boxes and playground pacts. The boy who traded truth for tropical punch. The room erupted, snaps like fireworks, and when he found me in the throng, eyes shining, he kissed me right there, unashamed, the mic feedback a distant hum. "You're my muse, Eli," he'd murmur later, tracing the constellation of moles on my shoulder blade. Always were. And I'd laugh, lightheaded, because for the first time, love didn't feel like a secret to hoard. It felt like air, vital, shared. But cracks spiderwebbed in. Alex's phone buzzed more. His mom, voice tinny through the speaker, asking when he'd settled down with a nice girl. Millwood's tendrils, long but unyielding. He'd deflect with jokes, but I'd catch him staring at old team photos, jaw tight. Then came the scout call, a semi-pro league in Spokane sniffing around, dangling a contract like bait. It's not NFL, but it's steady. Paycheck. A fresh start. His excitement was a knife twist. Spokane was a haul back east, toward the mountains that birthed us, away from the city's embrace. "We could make it work," I said, curled against him in bed, city lights fracturing through the blinds. "Weekends. Me visiting with my paints." He nodded, but his hold tightened, possessive, scared. The betrayal slithered in on Thanksgiving. He'd insisted on going home, alone, to test the waters, soften the blow. "Just a weekend, Eli. I'll tell them. Us." I waved him off at the Greyhound, kiss lingering like a bruise. The apartment echoed without him. Half-eaten turkey from the corner bodega, sketches piling up like unanswered prayers. Monday morning, my phone lit up. Not him, but Jenny Caldwell. Number blocked since high school, but she'd hunted me down via Facebook. "We need to talk." About Alex. Coffee at a neutral spot, a Starbucks in Belltown, rain sheeting the windows like judgment. She looked polished, yoga pants, blonde bob, engagement ring glinting like a warning. "He's back with me," she said, no preamble, stirring her latte like poison. "Snuck in Friday night, drunk and desperate. Said it was a mistake, you. That city life's turned your head, made you. Whatever. But we're fixing it. For the family. The team." My stomach plummeted, the world tilting. "He told you." A pity smile. "Honey, he tells me everything. Always has. You're the phase, the experiment. But me? I'm the endgame." I stumbled home, rain soaking through, and there he was, duffel by the door, eyes red-rimmed. "Eli, wait." The words flew like shrapnel. "Jenny called. Said you're fixing things. With her." His face crumpled, confirmation enough. The story poured out. The drive home, the ambush dinner, his dad's disappointed stare over pumpkin pie, the whiskey after, Jenny's arms a familiar harbor. I panicked. Again. But I'm here now. I chose you. Chose. Past tense, like a die cast. "You traded me for the easy lie." I choked, chest heaving. Again. That juice box was the first betrayal, keeping my secret, but burying yours. And now this. He reached, but I flinched. "It's not." "Get out." The door slammed, echoing like finality. He left, tail lights blurring in the downpour, and I slid down the wall, sobs racking me until dawn, the sketchbook open to his face, smiling, innocent, a lie I'd inked into truth. Winter clamped down on Seattle like a vice, gray skies bleeding into January's bite. The city that once hummed with promise now mocked me. Couples twined under umbrellas, rainbow scarves fluttering like flags of surrender. I threw myself into work. Murals for a new queer youth center, portraits commissioned by strangers who saw my pain in the brushstrokes. Friends dragged me to therapy circles, where I spilled about the boy who'd traded sweetness for my soul, and they nodded, murmuring affirmations like, "You're enough." But at night, alone in the cold, I wasn't. I was the kid on the playground, pouch empty, secret exposed. Alex's texts came in waves, apologies etched in pixels. "I love you." A lifeline I wouldn't grasp. Then silence, broken by a mutual friend. His mom had a stroke, mild but scary, pulling him back to Millwood for good. "He's a mess," she messaged. "Asking for you." I deleted it, but the splinter in my chest throbbed anew. February brought the gallery show, my first solo, Trades and Traders, a gut punch of canvases chronicling us. Juicebox still life in neon pop, playground packed in shadowed oils, betrayal's kiss in fractured acrylics. Critics buzzed. Elijah Hart's raw humanism cuts like a Pacific Norwesterner, and on opening night, the room swelled with artists, activists, the glitterati of Capitol Hill. I wore my best button down, hair tamed, smile painted on, toasting with cheap champagne as strangers dissected my heart on the walls. Then, the door chimed, and there he was, Alex, in a wool coat dusted with mountain snow, eyes scanning until they locked on mine. The crowd parted like biblical waters, murmurs rippling. He approached slow, hands shoved deep in pockets, vulnerability carving hollows under his cheekbones. "Eli, they're us." I nodded, throat tight, gesturing to the central piece. Two boys under monkey bars, one offering a pouch, the other reaching, faces blurred in longing. "Yeah, all of it." He swallowed hard. "I sold the truck. Quit the gym. Mom's recovering, but I came for you. No more trades. No more secrets." His voice dropped raw. "That night with Jenny, it was fear, Eli. Fear of losing the family, the town, the me they built. But without you, what's left? You're the only real thing I've ever had." The room faded, judgments suspended. I stepped closer, the scent of pine and rain, Millwood on his skin, hitting like home. "You broke me, Alex. Twice." "I know." Tears tracked his stubble. "Let me spend the rest of my life gluing the pieces. Please." The kiss was tentative, a question in the press of lips, then deepening as the crowd hooped, snaps of phones immortalizing redemption. But love's not a fairy tale. It's a negotiation, humanistic in its mess. We didn't rush. Therapy together, slow rebuilds over late-night drives to the sound, where we'd park and talk until stars pricked the clouds. He got a job coaching pee-wee football in the city, trading cleats for compassion, encouraging the kids who didn't fit the mold. I painted him anew, not as muse, but partner, half-body portraits of us intertwined, expressions soft with earned trust. Spring thawed the ice, cherry blossoms dusting the parks like confetti. One afternoon, on a blanket by Green Lake, paddle boats dotting the water like dreams afloat, he pulled a small box from his jacket. Not juice, but a keychain, two silver pouches intertwined, engraved our pact. "No more trading away," he said, green eyes steady. "Just building from here." I took it, fingers lacing with his, the weight light but profound. Millwood's shadows lingered, holidays tentative, whispers from old friends. But we'd learned, love isn't a secret to hoard or a phase to flee. It's the quiet choice, day after gray day, to show up whole. And in that realization, traded long ago for a sip of punch, I found not just him, but myself, loved all along.